I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Today would be August 23rd. This is the Executive Committee. Before I ask for an approval of the minutes, can I get permission from y'all to put Paul on the phone? Mr. Renaud and Ms. Bryan on the second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Then we'll note that unanimous. Welcome, Paul. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 4th, March 1st, March 22nd, and the regular session of July 26th, 2022? Thank you, Ms. Daly. Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Paul. Any opposed? Same sign. All right, we get that done unanimously. We would be at informational items. Anything, Mr. Sorrell, from the Springdale Cemetery folks?
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chairman, unless Member Daly has anything to update us on.
And the minutes of their June 21st meeting are in the packet.
Correct.
Thank you. Any questions there? We'll move along to the report from the County Auditor. I don't think we have one. I didn't see one. Let's see.
There is no report in the packet, Mr.
We
Chairman.
have no report. And then on our tax abatement program?
Mr. Chairman, this is an item that was asked to be put on the agenda actually last month, so it's a holdover from last month. This is the program that Councilman Kelly came and spoke to either the full board or this committee about shortly pre-pandemic. It is a neighborhood revitalization tool that Councilman Kelly has solicited our participation in. A key component of that program is creating a mechanism that would allow for state income tax refunds to be applied as a benefit. The challenge is that requires change in legislation, and while a bill has been introduced, I believe in the Senate, it was never called for a hearing before its oversight committee in the General Assembly or in that chamber, and obviously at this point is not moving. So there would be a legislative barrier to really effectively seeing his vision and goals for this program come to full fruition.
Now, is that true for new construction or existing structures?
So, memory serves, he was directing it towards new construction in targeted areas of the city. Most of those areas are south of War Memorial. It's not the entire portion of the city south of War Memorial, but it's various pockets and portions, and it would be directed at new construction of single-family dwellings. So the goal is to increase home ownership, if memory serves correctly.
Well, I'll see if he wants to attend the next executive committee agenda, because he's asked for us to vote on this, and each time I try to explain it, I get to this point where it's really not ripe, because there's no place in the law, can I say it that way, that provides for the program to be realized. So this is going to take a little bit more time with John. Okay, thank you, Scott. Can I get a motion on the resolution for the creation of a pool of pre-qualified advertising agency vendors, please? Thank you, Mr. Renaud, and thank you, Ms. Blair. Mr. Sorrell.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to stall for like 5 seconds while Gretchen walks over to the microphone. This is a project Gretchen and Diana Scott, who's the PIO at the Health Department, have been working on. And now that she's seated over the microphone, I'll turn it over to her to explain the item.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, in discussions with the health department, who has a large amount of grant money that comes through annually for advertising, different outreach efforts, they were looking to create a pool of qualified vendors they could more quickly go to get their programs up and running faster. Sometimes they have a very quick turnaround. And really, I just worked with them also to kind of piggyback on that. Sometimes there are programs that come up that we also need a quicker turnaround than going out to RFP each time. Most of those programs of mine are between the 5 to 10,000, and so these RFPs that we got back did come with pricing, and we have gone through all the processes. But really, it's just a way for us to, more quickly get through media buying, advertising, get things up and out if they need to work quicker than, say, an RFP process would ultimately. We did receive 7 bids back, our RFPs back. 5 of those we consider full service in that they really do the gamut of advertising services. There were a couple also specialty, Cumulus, which is mostly digital and radio, and then Blue Outdoor, which primarily the health department works with when they put signage in the malls, and they're more of actually of a sole source. So we considered all 7 vendors as qualified for use on an as-needed basis, but there's no guarantee of spend for any vendor. It also does not limit the amount of vendors that Peoria could use. Departments of any sort can still go out and get quotes and follow our policies that from vendors who are not on this list.
Thank you, Gretchen. Any questions? I have one. How would you go about using one of them, or would you just request for proposals from 5 of them?
So they gave us back some good proposals regarding their turnaround time, their flexibility, what they kind of specialize in. We could see from their references they gave us. I do know, I can't speak for Diana, but she's used a variety of them, so she already has some experience with a lot of them. So some were better at, I would say, logo design versus some were better at web design. You kind of see what you might need for a given project. So we have our scoring sheets that go through that. We also looked at their pricing, of course. Some, they're not really apples to apples across the board, but you can kind of get an idea of, certain ones, I don't want to call them out, maybe you can like, oh, those were kind of noticeably higher than others. And others are like, oh, you were noticeably lower, but your turnaround time is 4 to 6 weeks, and that may not be the best for that particular project. It's meant to give us a little flexibility in that. The purchasing department helped us structure this in a similar way how they do to firms for when they go out to bid for road projects, since that sometimes your professional services kind of look. So it's not just purely a cost basis. It's also on what they are good at and known for.
Thank you for that comprehensive answer. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Paul, on the phone, are you in?
Aye.
Thank you. That sounds like that would be unanimous. I'm going to move on to the agendas in the order they appear in our packets, or at least they appear in my packet, beginning with Mr. Renaud.
Thank you, sir. We had one resolution, and that was a full service agreement with the Village of Princeville for animal control. And Becky said that she could fulfill this agreement without adding any personnel.
Thank you. Is that an upgrade from their previous agreement for half service or quarter service when you say full service?
Correct.
So they did upgrade.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's what happens, sure.
They were at impound only, Mr. Chairman.
Gotcha. Infrastructure is going to be Mr. Dillon for Mr. Salzer.
So only one ordinance, and it was a guardrail repair bid letting, and it's to repair a bunch of guardrails that have been damaged throughout the county. The one example that was given was a park off of Lauterbach Road that has a new pickleball court, and it's extending some guardrails there. So it was $100,000 some, little over $100,000 some.
Wow, okay. That pickleball, has caught on.
Quite popular.
It's really got the momentum. It's a good use of an old tennis court. Any questions for the committee vice chair? All right, then I'll jump on over to Ways and Means.
Thank you. Ways and Means had their monthly delinquent taxes for July and August, which passed, typical. We did have another ordinance allowing the Peoria County Treasurer to adopt a single bidder rule for annual tax sale. And I'll try to summarize it. If you have need for explanation, we have a treasurer in the room to do that. The situation is, as we've gone to, I'll say, more electronic or online or digital, better term, bidding, we've had some situations where one entity will create multiple fronts or multiple bidding entities to bid on the tax sale, which then doesn't really make it a fair competition for single owner entities to bid. So there is an ability to have a single bidder rule put in place that the treasurer can put in place along with the tax agent to make sure that it's fair for all bidders. So that was the ordinance that passed. I'd ask if anyone else has questions on that because we could have our treasurer speak to it.
Any questions for Mr. Ricker or our treasurer? All right, seeing none. Thanks for the update.
Right.
Almost asked you to vote on it. Land use.
We did.
So we had a zoning case, petition of Linda Ramsey. It was basically for an estate to split 3 different parcels that had houses on it. And then we had a subdivision waiver, which for public water that went, basically these are on wells, existing wells. So the subdivision waiver followed it. Those were our 2 ordinances.
Thank you. Any questions for the committee chair? Now we will go back to Ms. Williams with County Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had no resolutions. However, we had Ellen and Alicia here from Farnsworth Group, and they gave us the initial design for our Health and Human Service campus. Had lots of questions, and I think everybody's pretty pleased with the product.
Thank you. It's a nice presentation. Mr. Rosenbaum, your agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to let Brandy, Ms. Bryant, do the report. She ran the meeting for me today. So
Okay, sure.
And that way you guys can hear better.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bryant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had 1 resolution today. It was the approval of salary adjustment for Peoria County Sheriff. It was a unanimous vote. Is that pretty much it?
That works. Any questions? Thank you both. We would be at miscellaneous. 16 minutes in, miscellaneous. Ms. Daly,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Rand. I know a number of you know of my interest in having ethics ordinances, and this stems from, I work for the state of Illinois, Member Renault works for the state of Illinois, Member Groves Allison works for the state of Illinois, and since 2003 and amended subsequently, they've had an extensive ethics statute. So in talking with, I either left a message or I was able to speak with 15 board members, and everyone is supportive and interested in the concept of having ethics ordinances, and this will add to the transparency that we have for the public. Scott Sorrell provided me with what he believes is the appropriate place this could be inserted, and that's in the Peoria County Code of Ordinances, and an ethics policy would be below that. There are currently six counties in Illinois that have their own specific ethics ordinances: Champaign, DeKalb, DuPage, Kane, Lake, and McHenry. And so our able counsel, Ms. Jennifer Cordes Boswell, will be assisting in taking a look at model legislation and also the things that those six counties have drafted. By way of a schedule, I'm hoping there'll be a draft ready by the September Executive Committee meeting for discussion, and then any revisions would be made in time for the October meeting, again, Executive Committee meeting, and then it would come as a resolution from the October Executive Committee meeting to the board for the November 10th board meeting. That would be in time for all newly elected members would have the code before or at the time they're sworn in. So, just by way of information.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Daly? Dr. Blair?
This would be for all elected officials in Peoria County?
This would be for anyone who is connected to Peoria County government.
So employees as well?
Anyone connected with Peoria County government.
I think if we look at this ordinance, one thing is to also include training on ethics, not just have the ordinance, but make sure that everyone gets training on what all that means.
Thank you. That's a good point. All right, anyone else? Thank you for carrying this ball, Ms. Daly.
You're welcome.
We'd still be at miscellaneous. Anyone? All right, so I got 1:51 would be adjourned.